he represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fith chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fith chapter.
That's right. Welcome to the Fith chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. Dennis, is all of the snow off of your lawn allowing your goats to gaze freely?
Well, on this Earth Day, chap, 99% of that snow is gone, but I do see a little bit here and a little bit there. And even today, for like 1 minute, I was out there, and I wouldn't say it was like such a small, like, flurry, like one in, like, you wouldn't ever call it a flurry, but I definitely saw like a snowflake here and there.
Now, was it a snowflake coming from the sky or being blown off of a tree?
No, yesterday, is that when we had the snow or the day before?
It was Tuesday night.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. No, this was from the sky. Like
okay.
A random, like, snowflake, here or there. It was, that definitely was happening.
Well, I heard Dan Dickerson and Jim Price talking about that during the radio broadcast of today's Tigers game, that they saw the same thing, despite the fact that the temperature was in the mid-40s. I think it was 46 at the first pitch, so I guess I can't doubt it if it was happening in downtown Detroit as well. But I will say this, and I will declare this as a matter of fact, Metro Detroit is done with sub-freezing temperatures until the fall. That's official because I've declared it.
Yeah, well, good luck with that, because out here, in the rural country, I've been looking at, because I wanted to plug in my electric water bucket for the goats there. I had unplugged it, but then I was looking at some of the temperatures, and it's very close to freezing, so it could happen. So I wouldn't bet on that, Chapman.
Well, I have already declared it, so we are done with if it gets to 33, that's not sub-freezing. And I'm declaring that we will not get there in Metro Detroit until the fall. So mark my words. And if I'm wrong, Dennis has bagging rights.
You don't have goats to worry about.
That's correct.
People that are out there with their plants or anything, they're listening to Chapman like, oh, let's go ahead, man. But they all.
That's right. They should. Listen to me.
Good luck with that. June 1st is when you can comfortably go out there and feel good about it not freezing anymore.
All right. Well,
we're a ways away from that.
If you want to trust me, you can. If you want to trust Fithy and the farmer, you can trust Fithy and the farmer.
You want to trust the Farmer's Almanac? you listen to me. You want to trust Chapman knows what he's talking about? You go ahead.
All right. Well, definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode number 98, where both of us will attempt to know what we're talking about regarding the 5 fantastic chapters in today's show. Thanks to all who are watching via Facebook Live, those watching via YouTube, and those watching via Twitch. I also want to thank those who are listening to the podcast, which is available at around 11 o'clock on the day of each show via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your feedback. Dennis will be reading it throughout the course of the show. And if you're wondering what we'll be talking about during the show, let's take a look at today's book. And as you can see in the second chapter, there are some reports out there about the health of Justin Fields. We'll tell you about what this new health issue is and whether or not NFL teams should be concerned. In the third chapter, NFL is changing a whole bunch of rules, including rules on jersey numbers, onside kicks, and replays. We'll tell you whether we love or hate some of these new rules. In the fourth chapter, does an MLB reporter's tweet help prosecute the case against Avila? He didn't even mention him, but you could make the case that that tweet does prosecute the case against the embattled Detroit Tigers general manager. And then in the fifth chapter, after the major wager, should Stephen Curry be the NBA's MVP? He seems to think so. But first, Dennis, we'll turn the page to the first chapter. And that gets us to the 2021 NFL Draft, which is just 1 week away. We'll be on live during the draft until the Lions pick. And if they trade down multiple times like you think they should do, then we could be on for 2, 3, 4 hours to know. Also, Dennis, yeah, I know.
What time's the draft start? I thought it started at 7.
I don't know. Maybe Jelinek can take a look at that.
Yeah.
I think
don't make any promises about being on to the Lions pick. Did I say that too?
Yes, you did.
Maybe we want a slower roll on that.
Yeah, but we have made a promise about giving away a prize via our giveaway. What are the details about that for those that are just joining in, Dennis?
Well, it's a draft challenge here for the 5th chapter. You give your picks 1 through 10. If you get pick 1 right, you get 1 point. You get pick 10 right, that's worth 10 points. So the Lions pick at 7. How many points is that worth, Chapman?
That would be 4.
There you go. It's worth 7, you dummy. So the prize is provided by Pro Sport Zone and the Laurel Park Mall. Michigan fans and I guess you'd say Giants fans as well. Mario Manningham's going to be signing at the Pro Sports Zone in early June, so stay with us for details on that. I'm planning on stopping by there soon to pick up the grand prize, so I'm excited about that coming up. But you go to Twitter, use the hashtag the 5th chapter mock, or you can go to where you listen to your podcast, and you can put a review on there like Jelinek's going to do this week. He's going to put a review on there and show everybody how it's done by putting his 10. So we look forward to that by seeing it on Tuesday.
We want as many participants as possible, but only one winner will be chosen. So, Dennis, we're 1 week away. Mock draft season is almost over. We know who the first 2 drafted players are likely to be. We know that we won't have to wait very long for the Lions pick unless they trade down. And we know that the offensive possibilities at number 7 include Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Rashawn Slater, and Penei Sewell. And we know the defensive possibilities are probably limited to just Micah Parsons and maybe Patrick Surtain II. Dennis, who do you want the same old Lions to draft if they stand pat at number 7?
Well, first of all, I love Michael Lombardi, a former GM, who guaranteed that San Francisco wouldn't take Justin Fields. And that's a surprise to me. The guy's pretty dialed in, but he's 100% sure that the 49ers aren't going to take Justin Fields. That's my pick. That's who I want the Lions to take. If you can get an elite quarterback in the NFL, it is what you're trying to do. That's how you win a Super Bowl. That's how you win in the NFL, is getting that elite quarterback. And now the arguments about, well, we've got Goff for 2 years. We're, cashing in 2 years of this rookie contract. That's true. You don't know when you're going to be up this high again. And you throw as much as you can at that quarterback position until you get an elite quarterback. That's what this Lions franchise ought to be doing. Now, I think Fields is that guy. If Fields isn't there, and let's say Mac Jones and Trey Lance are, I'm not comfortable myself in taking either of those guys. I would criticize the Lions from the standpoint of wow, man, are you guys sure? I really hope you know what you're doing. But if they're going all in there because they think one of these guys are going to be an elite franchise quarterback, we'll see. That'll be a little bit of a gamble. I wouldn't do that. But Fields is the pick for me there. And that's the one thing that Lion fans should be on board about. Elite QB. These guys are like, let's wait a couple years and then it'll be perfect. It's not always perfect. The perfect thing is, the name of the game is getting the signal caller, trying to get cute and perfect with it. Well, let's wait 2 years to see if Jared Goff, and then we'll probably suck anyways because he isn't any good. You can't count on that. If you're in position to take a quarterback and you think one's elite there, you pull the trigger.
Well, in answer to your question of who knows how long it's going to be before the Lions are this high again, how about next year? How about next year they're going to be even higher? They're sitting at number 7 now. We can place a bet right now the Lions will be picking inside the top 6 in 2022, especially with the extra picks they have to be able to move up if they want to. But they won't even need to move up to be able to land in the top 6 in the 2022 draft. But Justin Fields is in my list of top 5 players that the Lions should draft, and if they stand there at number 7. But the guy that I hope they take and hope they don't take is none other than we are Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons. For personal reasons, I hope they don't take him because I don't want the same old Lions to ruin his career like they have done other Penn State Nittany Lions, in particular Derek Williams. I'm not going to say that with Amari Oruwariye because he was a 5th-round pick and he's kind of performing like a 5th-round pick is supposed to, but I don't want the Lions to ruin his career because the Lions know how to ruin players' careers. That said, I think that if he's on the board at number 7, while there are most mock drafts don't have him in the top 7, they have Micah Parsons not going until maybe 9 or 10. A lot of mock drafts don't have any defensive players in the top 10, which is kind of surprising. He is the best defensive player in the draft. He is going to be a star linebacker in this league. He is going to be a Pro Bowler in his first 2 years in the league, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Pro Bowler in his first year in the NFL. He's a safe pick. He's a star player. He's a sure tackler. He runs a 40-yard dash in under 4.4 seconds. He's got the build of a linebacker. He's always around the football, and that's been the case ever since he was a true freshman, meaning he's not confused by what the offenses are going to do. The Lions have a huge need at linebacker. They have a huge need on the defensive side of the football. Chris Sims on his podcast, Chris Sims Unbuttoned.
You love Chris Sims.
Yeah, well, he's a very respectable individual, and I like hearing about what he has to say when he ranks different players. And he ranked Micah Parsons obviously the number 1 linebacker, and he said that Parsons doesn't have any weaknesses. The Lions, the last few times they've drafted linebackers, have drafted linebackers with weaknesses. When you look at the high draft picks, Jared Davis and the guy from Hawaii, I forget his name, with the long hair. But Micah Parsons has no weaknesses, and he fills that position of need. He's going to be a star player. If I was not a Penn State fan who was concerned about the Lions ruining his career, he would easily be the choice at number 7. And I wouldn't even want to consider dropping back 3 or 4 spots to see if he was still there. Take the star linebacker.
You didn't like the Jelani Tavai pick?
Yeah, Jelani Tavai.
Bob Quinn?
Yeah.
What about the off-field concerns, the red flags with Micah Parsons that have been talked about over the last couple of weeks, if not months?
No, I've never really been concerned about them for a couple of reasons. First of all, I believe
let's go. Can you give a synopsis of what the off-field issues
are?
Yeah,
it was basically one off-field issue, and it was when he was a true freshman. He and a couple of other players were accused of hazing another player. And, I mean, it was kind of sick what they were thinking about doing or alleged to have been doing. They were saying, hey, if you go tell anybody, we're going to Sandusky you. I can't imagine that they were actually going to sexually assault him or anything like that. They were probably just joking. But a lot of folks wouldn't take that the right way. Considering that I believe the charges were dropped and considering it was hazing, not like some not some criminal act or anything like that, and considering it was a couple years ago, I don't think there's much to worry about. I don't think that many NFL teams are concerned about Micah Parsons coming into an NFL locker room and hazing 33-year-old veterans.
No, I agree. And if it reflects badly on anybody, it reflects badly on James Franklin, who apparently told everybody, hey, let's just handle all this here. We ain't going to the police with any of this kind of stuff. Allegedly, all that happened and it got buried. But if it's anybody, it's James Franklin who comes out of that not smelling like a rose. But, yeah, is it a dream scenario for me to get Micah Parsons at 7? No, I think if Fields isn't there, then the Lions should be moving out. And the dream scenario for me, the top one would be moving out to whatever it is, 12 or 13, and then moving out again into the 20s and moving out of the first round and accumulating tons of draft picks. A 3 move out draft by the Lions. No first round pick for them. Getting the war chest ready for the next year and the following year. That should be the plan for this team. Now, if they move back, I've seen there was a Peter Schrager, his first mock, where he had him moving back, I think, the 14, and still being able to get one of the top 3 wide receivers in this draft. It wasn't Chase, it wasn't Waddle, but it was Devontae Smith, the 166-pound, 6-foot wide receiver, the Heisman Trophy winner. If the Lions moved back to the teens, picked up a first-rounder, picked up a future third-rounder, and got Devontae Smith at 14, that would be a dream scenario. But you know what? They could move back to the teens there, and they still might be able to get a guy like Michael Parsons or one of those offensive linemen, not Sewell, but I don't know, maybe Slater could drop there. So I think the idea of still moving back, there's probably a range of 4 or 5 players. I know you listed them all. I think one of those guys could fall to the early teens for them. But I think if it's not Fields, definitely move back for the Lions. Don't sit there and settle for one of those players there where you could pick up one of those other players that is equally as impressive, and you could pick up a future first and maybe third round pick.
Yeah, I would be on board with trading back as well, and because the Lions have so many weaknesses, and it seems like there's so many players who could be instant impacts, not just Micah Parsons, not just Fields, but Jamar Chase would be. I don't think there's a small chance he could be there at number 7, but if they trade down, he's going to be gone. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, those guys could be there if they trade down. But my top 5 choices, I would say, are Parsons, number 1, Chase 2, Smith 3, Fields 4, and Jalen Waddle number 5. I think that would be the way I would look at it. But one thing that I was looking at earlier,
flip that for me. Fields and Waddle would be 1, 2 for me if I'm thinking about if they stick.
Wow, even with Waddle's injury last year?
He came back and showed that he played on that ankle injury in the playoffs. So he's good to go.
He caught 2 passes, but okay. But one thing I did notice. He did play. One thing I did notice was I was looking at a couple of CBS Sports mock drafts earlier today, and they had some trades in there, and 2 of the trades that they had the Lions moving back 2 spots in a trade with the Denver Broncos so that the Broncos could trade up and acquire a quarterback. I believe both times they acquired Trey Lance. That's something that I think would appeal to a lot of Lions fans because they could still get most likely the best defensive player in the draft in Micah Parsons. They could still get a wide receiver if they wanted to get one at number 9. And they wouldn't be able to get most likely another first-round pick, but could they get a second-round pick or a third-round pick for trading back a couple of spots? Yes, and it would be a high second or third round pick given that it'd be from the Broncos, and they'd still get likely their man at number 9.
Yeah, I like that. The Patriots want to come up.
Yeah, number 15.
I'd go for, like I said, I'm willing. Like if the Bears want to open up the treasure chest, where are they at? 20? One of those teams want to, I'll fall back to 20 and then I'll just keep going. Yeah, I think the one thing the Lion fans, like the first round, it's been, it's our playoff, it's our Super Bowl, as it's been dubbed. So people don't like, losing the Super Bowl, going in and giving away the Super Bowl, which is the first round pick. It's like you're going to come away, you're going to be like, oh, we're already waiting until next year or the following year, which is going to be a real downer for Lions fans.
Yes, because they're going to suck this year.
Well, they are, and that's going to tell everybody it is, and that might be. I think that's the medicine that the Lion fans need. But they're not. They're going to hate that. They're going to hate a triple trade down just for what it means that night. It's going to be like, yay! You're going to put their head down, and
we got to wait until Friday to get some new cool players. Oh man!
Well, you know what? Part of being a Lions fan over the years, I know how it is. As soon as the final game is over of the season. That's Lion season, That's where you get your money. You start saying, look, we can get a free agent. That's when you just talk about the draft. And then after the draft, that's when you just start building up your hopes. So like, NFC North sucks. You know what? Aaron Rodgers is going to be the host of Jeopardy. The Bears have the Red Rifle as their quarterback. We could win this thing for the first time in 30 years. And then
you lose to the Jets by 31 points and reality hits in the first game.
Your first round draft pick drops the sure touchdown right in the breadbasket in the opening game. And then you're crushed, and then you're waiting for the next time. So, yeah, but I don't think you're going to be able to – it'll be even difficult for the most diehard Lion fan if they, move out of the first round and get all these picks where that they'll be lined up for next year, but the whole thing about being able to have this myth of being able to build it up in the off season and really, talk yourself into them being competitive or why not this year, that'll go out the window.
Good.
I don't know if Hughes and Campbell are ready to do that. That would be some kind of medicine for Lions fans, but
Lions fans aren't going to do that because they'll look at the 3 preseason games and they'll say, "Oh, did you see in the third quarter when our 4th round draft pick ran for 62 yards? He's clearly got to be a starter for us. Oh, did you see when our 5th round pick?"
About it. You don't have
No,
to
I'm not being a jerk. I'm telling you something that you know is accurate. That 5th round pick linebacker. Yeah, well, you know what?
Yes or no?
People will say yes to that.
Your mom's setting in. She says no. Look at there, Jelinek. Yes. Keith. Yeah. Oh no, I'm just making those up.
The bottom line is they will say I'm a jerk, and then come the August preseason games, they're gonna do exactly what I just said. They're gonna start being big slappies. Oh, the 5th round pick linebacker is gonna be a stud. Unbelievable! I don't see why he's not starting right away. What's up with Campbell? What's the real feedback we're getting?
Well, Beth on Facebook said, remember the Lions had the 3rd pick last year. That was the time to take the quarterback. I've seen Horn for the Lions if they move back to 14 or 15. Bart says, looking forward to seeing who the new leaders take this year. They do have new leadership. It's the one thing about being a Lions fan here that is where you feel a little bit optimistic. Like the 4 biggest pillars of any team that you're going to look at, you go to ownership, you go to the general manager, you go to the coach, you go to the quarterback. All 4 of those you know they've got a new GM and a new head coach and a new QB, and essentially with Sheila, this is her second year, right? Relatively new. This is her second year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but you got four new pieces there, which is a pretty big deal here if you're a Lions fan looking for that new direction.
Yeah, and like I said, either on Tuesday or last week, whenever it was, the Lions rebuild every 2 to 5 years. So come 2023 at the earliest and 2026 at the latest, they will have multiple new pieces in that. Not the ownership, but the other 3, they will have multiple new pieces.
A lot of yeses coming in. Jerk, jerk, jerk. No, I'm making those up. Draft starts at 8 o'clock on Thursday the 29th. Well, maybe we ought to come on at 8:30 then. If we come on at 8:30, maybe we can stay around for the Lions pick. We'll see about that. BP Parsons is his pick. He says the Lions should take Fields, Lance, Chase, or Pitts. If not, trade down and select Parsons. You could hit a home run with Lance. Only worry is the level of competition, and he took a year off. Otherwise, top talent with freakish skills, could be the best player in the draft. You know, he could be, and that's the wild card. It's the one spot, like, if the Lions pick Trey Lance at number 7, that's like everybody's going to be like, whoa. Like, you'd like to, just as a fan, to have seen a guy play, so you're picking somebody out of thin air.
That's correct.
Picking somebody out of thin air that just played one game, last year, and went to North Dakota State. Hey, we've seen it, Maybe he'll be the next Carson Wentz. Maybe he'll be the next Josh Allen, something like that.
Well,
that's a tough one.
And I think it'd also be tough given that a lot of fans are going to be, like you said, they're going to want to say, hey, we can turn this around right away. And they're going to say, we already got Jared Goff. I know you're going to say, oh, Jared Goff is trash. He's one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the history of the league. But
I'm not going to say he's trash. I'm just he's a step down from Matt Stafford, and I saw where they were with Stafford.
Yeah, we'll see if he's a step down from Matt Stafford. But a lot of folks are going to say, if we're going to try to compete for that 7th playoff spot, then we need somebody that can compete for a starting position right now. We need somebody we need somebody that can catch some passes. We need somebody that can block. We need somebody that can do this or that or whatever. And Trey Lance, coming from some random Dakota after not playing a year, is not going to help Lions fans think that they can compete right away.
What if they had that Carolina pick and they went Lance, and then they had Teddy Bridgewater and Lance, and they'd have the pick at 8? Is that right? The Carolina pick?
Carolina, yeah, they have the number 8 pick.
Yeah, that was the deal. Remember?
Yeah.
Bridgewater in the 8 for Stafford.
Yeah. They would have the 7th pick and they would have the 8th pick.
Except the rationale was that the Lions were, taking on these picks and taking on the salary because they were punting until 2022, 2023. I think we need to try to remember that.
Yes, they are going to be punting. That's for certain.
Well, I don't know. Lion fans, hitting around at it. That Jared Goff might do a little something here, be a little bit of a surprise.
He could. I want to see what he's going to do before I give up on him, especially given if I'm a Lions fan, I'm thinking we've already committed $134 million to him. Why pull the plug on a $134 million quarterback before he's earned $1 of it?
Yeah, it's always a tough when another team that he had some success with is just ready to give up. I'm like that, but so we'll see.
And his new GM is saying, hey, we're ready to give you that opportunity. We like what you have to offer.
Yeah, and if we don't like it in 2 years, we're going to kick it to the curb.
Correct.
That's what they're saying.
All right. 2 years.
Yeah. Or if they took Trey Lance or Justin Fields, they wouldn't want to play him as a rookie, but you could have Jared Goff as the most expensive backup ever.
Wouldn't that be just a Lions thing? Detroit Lions break record for most expensive backup in NFL history. The most same old Lions thing ever.
No, if the rookie quarterback sucked, it would be. Like if you were out there. But the one part about this, and Bob Quinn knows it, and most people know it too, that if the Lions do take a quarterback at 7 and Goff, trips up anywhere in the first 2 or 3 games, these people are going to be screaming all day for whoever that quarterback is to play him now. Make him the most expensive backup now. Lions
go from having all these garbage backups in the Matt Stafford era to the wealthiest backup quarterback in NFL history.
And fans will be calling for that pick at 7 if he's a QB almost immediately. As soon as Jared Goff throws that first pick.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not reading that one. Keith, the Lions drive to Tavai. I think he meant to say selected Tavai over DK Metcalf. He has a little smiley face. Problem with having picks is, can we trust the Lions scouting? History says probably not. Well, BP, if you get into the situation, it's like, yeah, sure, we can have a boatload of picks, but it's like giving a baby a machine gun. Like, you're in trouble if that's the way you think. Like, we can't draft anyway, so we might as well do this. Like, this is a new regime. So the hope is that, and we've seen it, the Dolphins and the Browns, both of those teams are good examples. Like, they took years off, plural, to build up. Remember when the Browns took what's his name, the quarterback from the Texans, and got a draft pick and just took the gigantic salary, had no intentions on playing him. They knew that he sucked. And so there's a little bit of comparison. I don't want to say Goff sucks, but that's what they did. And, the Dolphins were clearly trying to be a bottom 5 team last year as well. And with all the picks that they were getting, Keith says he agrees with me. We could accumulate the picks and even trade out of the first round. They need a crap load of players. Here's Brian J. It's Brian Jelinek. Brad Holmes has had a nice offseason. He's been in the room with the Rams drafting. I could believe in Holmes. I have to see how this first draft goes. BP, definitely quantity will help with their chances. Lots of openings on this team. I'll read a couple more, then you can give a couple opinions there, chap. Keith says, right, Holmes is not Bob Quinn, and he has a way better track record of drafting and scouting. Just don't draft players with injury issues. That's from BP.
Well, when you say Brad Holmes has a much better track record than Bob Quinn, that's like saying, well, Bob Quinn has a much better track record than Martin Mayhew before Bob Quinn was hired. Because guess what? Bob Quinn wasn't making the final decision. He was a little helper. Brad Holmes was a little helper. So when somebody else is making the final decision and they're all good decisions, you look pretty good when you're the new guy. When Bob Quinn had to make his own decisions, he was saying, yeah, let's take this guy to Tease Tabor. He seems like a real athletic guy. He can run what? I bet he can run a sub 5 40-yard dash. I bet he can do the bench press about 3-4 times. Yeah, he's a great defensive back for us to take. So we don't know what he's going to look like. People talk about how great he was at scouting, but he didn't make the picks. He was 5th on the totem pole.
Yeah, that's a good point with the final decision there. A couple more here. We all saw Andre Ware play, and we know how that turned out. Smiley face, that's from Keith. BP says Andre Ware is from the Powerhouse University of Houston, and he goes back and forth. This gets to be if it's Trey Lance at 7. If it's Trey Lance, like I said, like immediately I'm going to feel like, whoa, man, the Lions blew this. What are they doing? Trying to be the smartest team in the room and everything else. But, you know, you pick a quarterback. I like the idea of picking a quarterback. But,
Yeah, I've noticed.
The quarterback being Fields in that situation, it seems like you get too cute anywhere else. But you know what? We'll see. Maybe they will be the smartest team then by taking Trey Lance. But
I doubt the
it's going to
Lions
put a
are gonna be
lot
smart.
of pressure. Well, who
It's
knows?
the Lions. All right, let's turn the page to the second chapter.
That gets us to Justin Fields. We talked about him in the first chapter. The quarterback of Ohio State, it was revealed this week that he is managing epilepsy. Chapman, will this affect his draft position?
And here's the tweet from Ian Rappaport. It came out just yesterday saying Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields has confirmed to NFL teams during the pre-draft process that he is managing epilepsy, a neurological disorder that can cause seizures, per me and Tom Pelissero. It has not affected football, and doctors believe he'll outgrow it, as his other family members have. So that was certainly a big surprise, at least when I saw that. And look, I'm far from being a medical expert. I'm far from being an epileptic seizures expert. I texted one of my friends who I know had a seizure or two in college and asked him if this is something that should be of concern, and he said that he hasn't had a seizure since college, but he didn't have epilepsy, so this was not an apples-to-apples comparison. Look, he apparently had epilepsy when he was in high school, and he was still the number one quarterback recruit in the country. He had it in college, and he had a great career, and now he's got a chance to be a top 5 pick after having that great career. So I would think as long as during the pregame introductions they don't use strobe lights, which can trigger an epileptic seizure, from what I understand, then he should be okay. Once again, I'm not an expert, but it seems like he should be fine. I've never heard of epilepsy being associated with a player's draft stock in any sport. I don't know if that's because if you have epilepsy, you're not a good athlete or whatever the case may be. But given that, and given that it's not like the rarest of all diseases, I would assume that he's going to be okay. And also, when you consider the fact that the report says that it's Justin Fields telling teams up front, hey, I have epilepsy, it's not like he's hiding it, and then some ex-girlfriend who's bitter that she's not going to get rich by eventually marrying Justin Fields coming out and saying, oh, he's got epilepsy, he's going to collapse on the field. If it's him coming out and saying, hey, I'm being honest, teams, I've got epilepsy, then that says to me that it's probably not that big a deal. But one thing that is kind of curious is that we've had 2 negative stories pop up about him in the last couple of weeks. We had this one pop up yesterday, and then we had the Dan Orlovsky story where he came out a couple of weeks ago saying, hey, I've got some NFL sources telling me that Justin Fields has a bad work ethic, last to go in, the first to leave, a typical Buckeye work ethic, just a bad person. He didn't put that last part in. I just threw that in. But it is interesting that he's got the 2 negative stories, and there aren't really any other negative stories around other quarterbacks. But I would think that this epilepsy thing is probably not a big deal.
Yeah, well, there have been a bunch of experts. I'm not talking about just, random people on Twitter like say they know more than scientists about, the pandemic or something. I'm talking about these are like real doctors, and they're saying, look, this is not going to affect what kind of quarterback he is. I even saw, there were a few that were weighing in, like there hasn't been any concerns about, concussions, more concussions, or CTE. A doctor was saying there's no evidence of that. There are also, other players, that were pointed out that played in the NFL that also dealt with it. So he's not a first timer there. I didn't see any quarterbacks on that list, but I don't think this is going to hold anybody back from drafting Fields. I think there's always a player or two that the media picks on or something. There's like you should be out in Ann Arbor and hear some of the people talk about Fields, like Buckeye quarterbacks suck when I get to the pros. Like that's been like if I've heard one
that has
Michigan
been the case.
Well, it has been, but you know what? Troy Smith because he won the Heisman Trophy and, was playing for Jim Tressel. Does that have anything to do with Justin Fields? No. I mean, it might just be bad news for Michigan fans that Ryan Day was a really good OC, and was able to get the most out of Haskins and maybe to get the most out of Fields. But you just look at these, JT Barrett, he was never going to go pro. And, there was 12 gauge. Like there's a lot of the, if it was like what somebody was talking about with Andre Ware, that was in a system quarterback, but Ohio State plays a pro style. So that has nothing. I don't think any of the quarterbacks that Haskins apparently didn't have a good work ethic. Does that mean Dan Orlovsky that Fields doesn't? No. And it's a system that's a pro style. So none of that makes any sense unless, you're a bitter Michigan fan and just like to say that. I do think it makes some sense if you're in a system like Houston, or if you were a big offensive lineman and you say, yeah, we want one from Wisconsin because in a positive way because of the system they run. But I don't think it's a negative that the quarterbacks haven't succeeded. I think it has zero bearing on Justin Fields.
Yeah, and you also have to remember that in this day and age, a lot of quarterbacks, or just about all quarterbacks who are highly rated 4 stars and 5 stars out of high school, have been getting private training for years. And so when they pick the college of their choice, whether it's a big-time college or just a mid-sized college as a 4 or 5 star recruit, they're getting trained at a higher level than they have been in the past. And that's why a lot of quarterbacks like a Justin Herbert can come in right away and play and not have to sit around for a year. So I think Justin Fields should be fine, and I don't think the epilepsy should be a big deal. What kind of I was going to ask about what kind of feedback we're getting, but we will turn the page to the 3rd chapter then. And as we turn the page to the 3rd chapter, that gets us to the new rules in the NFL for the 2021 season. And the owners agreed on several rules, including replay, where replay officials have the ability to consult with referees on, quote, specific objective aspects of a play when clear and obvious video evidence is present. They aren't allowed to throw red flags or reverse their own calls, but they can offer advice to the officials on the field. And previously, they could only participate when plays were under review, but not before they were under review. Also, and the rule changes, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defensive backs, and linebackers can all wear numbers in the single digits. That's going to be a huge deal, I would assume. Probably not. Also, the receiving team on kickoffs is limited to 9 players in the zone, 10 to 25 yards from the kickoff line of scrimmage. That's because they want to make it more likely that the kicking team will recover the onside kick. Last year, only 3 of 67 onside kicks were recovered by the kicking team. They eliminated overtime from the preseason, so they're not going to be going into, 5th string grocery baggers getting extra time to prove they cannot make the team. And they also included taunting in its points of emphasis. Dennis, which of these rules stands out to you as perhaps a rule that you are really excited about, or a rule that you hate?
Well, the first and last one, eliminating overtime, eliminating half of the exhibition season is what NFL fans want. So anything else that has to do with the preseason, the NFL can go to hell on that. We know that it's a money grab and it's a bunch of BS, and that's what every single person wants. So that's garbage from the NFL. The other one's a little ambiguous there. Like, there's always been this situation, reading about the replay. They need a sky judge up there to be the 8th official to be able to consort and help with these officials with the calls on the field. And the NFL said, well, they're not prepared yet. They didn't have the proper training and everything else. What this does, it's opening things up. We've already seen it. We know they're in communication. We don't know what's going on. It just makes you feel like you can't trust the referees even more when you don't know exactly what the guy, I know you just spelled some of that out, but when they're talking and we can't hear and there's stuff going on, you always think that they're slipping them a little bit more information. I would like to see a transcript or be able to hear the audio, not while they're doing it live. That would be nice, but after the game to see exactly what's going on from the people upstairs to the down on those officials, because there's too much of a gray area and there's been too much BS by these officials over the years here to just trust them like, well, they're trying to do the best thing for the league. It doesn't seem like that. Too ambiguous there. They should work with that sky judge so they can have that power and they can expedite the process. This thing sounds like it just slow it down and be more ambiguous here, which caused people not to trust the referees even more.
They're not going to have a transcript. That's a ridiculous idea to have a transcript of what the sky judge is saying.
It's called transparency. Transparency
to
see exactly what's going on.
I understand that, but considering we don't have a transcript when the referee talks to the umpire or the back judge or the line judge, having transparency and having a transcript when the sky judge or the replay official speaks to them is not going to be any different, because we never know what they're saying right now. So I don't think it's a big deal if they don't release a transcript afterwards. It is a little bit.
That was a suggestion.
Well, I know. I'm just telling you that's a bad suggestion. That's not going to happen, and we don't have it now.
You're not a free thinker, man. You need to be more of a deep thinker when it comes down to this.
I thought about it very deeply when
you
said it. I thought about it very deeply when you said it, and I said, Dennis can do a heck of a lot better than that. But look, I think that it makes sense to have the replay official being able to whisper down like, hey, that ball did hit the ground, or I think he might have been out of bounds. He only got 1 foot. I think that makes sense, because if the TV cameras can pick it up, then the referee should try to get it right, or else everyone's going to be mad and throwing stuff on the field. The onside kick rule is interesting because they are limiting the number of players that the receiving team can have in the 10 to 25 yard zone away from the ball being kicked. Right now you can have up to 11, which is all the players in that area, and now they're saying 9. Most teams have one guy deep just in case. So basically they're saying we're going to take one guy away from that area. I don't think that's going to have a huge difference. If they had dropped that to 7 or 8, then I think that would make the result of the onside kick a heck of a lot less predictable. I like the Philadelphia Eagles idea from last year, where you put the ball at your own 25-yard line, and as opposed to kicking the ball off, you have one shot to get 15 yards. If you fail, the opposition gets great field position. If the 4th and 15-ish play works and you get to the 40-yard line, then you get to keep possession. I think that the rate of success would still be low enough so that teams would not try to do that all the time, and they certainly wouldn't want to jeopardize that great field position, but it would be a heck of a lot higher than 3 for 67. So I think that I'll be interested to see how moving one player off of the line of scrimmage basically is going to help out at all, but I think that that's going to be pretty much a moot point. It isn't going to do anything.
Yeah, the only thing we saw this year is, the watermelon kick, so that's about all they have there. You would like to see a play that would generate a chance 15%.
Yeah.
It seemed like it would be a pretty good one. So, they have to come around, see if they can do something like that. On a somewhat similar note, college came out with their overtime tweak rules.
Yes.
And they're going to allow an extra point afterwards, like the teams get the ball at the 35. But then right after going to the second overtime, you have to go for 2. Yeah. And after going into the third one, they're not putting it back at the 35. You're just going to have to keep going for 2. Going for 2 twice. One for the touchdown and then one, for the 2-point conversion. So it should end overtime a lot quicker.
Wait, so
did you like those rules?
I heard about being forced to go to 2-point conversions beginning with the second overtime, but I didn't hear about that last part. So basically,
heading into the third overtime, the ball is going to be placed where the 2-point conversion is.
So on the 2-yard line.
Right. So it's second and goal there for a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Well then, I didn't like the change, and now that you're telling me more about the change, I like it even less. I mean, when you think about the way that it was set up in the past, where beginning in the third overtime you would go for 2 points. That gave each team the opportunity to possess the ball first and each team the ability to play defense first before you switch up the rules. Now you're switching up the rules after one team has the ball first. So I don't like that. I think they should stay with the third overtime being when they change it to go for 2 overtimes. And having to shorten the games, I know that one of the reasons they wanted to do so because there was a Big 12 game that went into 7 overtimes. That was one game. It was a game that a lot of people talked about, and it was a fun game to watch. If you go into multiple overtimes, it's like if you go into extra innings, you go to 16 innings, there's a heck of a lot of drama because nobody knows who's going to win. No, who complains about a 7 overtime game ending 77-75? There's a heck of a lot of drama there. So I don't like this change. And then talking about, well, after the second overtime, we're just going to stick the ball on the 2-yard line. No, keep putting the ball at the 25-yard line and force them to go 25 yards to score.
The people that complain are the advocates for the student athlete. They don't want to just keep having them banging their heads out there. They want them to, get the game over with. They're not professionals, and they want the game over with as fast as possible. So it's advocates for the student athlete and trying to get the game over as fast as possible, not just for your entertainment. And even though we all like it, that's where that comes from.
They've been playing for 3.5 hours, and then they want to cut the game off as quick. I bet Rob Manfred tried to institute this rule into college football. I bet he had a conversation with Mark Emmert, said, "Hey, we're revolutionizing baseball and making it a heck of a lot worse. Here's a way to quicken the game in college football. Try this." And then Mark Emmert, because he's a bad commissioner.
Manfred's suggestion was let's just do it after 3 quarters.
Yeah, I bet he wanted to do that. And then he probably said, why don't we just stick a 12th defensive player out there too?
No, he would want a 12th offensive player. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, stick a 12th offensive player. 12 on 11. That'll really increase the scoring in games. We're trying to increase scoring in baseball. We stick a man out there. You should stick an extra offensive player out there.
All right, let's get to some of the feedback here on the rules. People still talking about Goff and Stafford here. I don't care. Take Fields all day at 7, Chap. I don't understand why you would put all your eggs in the Goff basket when he may not pan out.
Well, if he doesn't pan out, then you're going to see it in the first year of his contract. And if he's good, the Lions are going to suck. If he's no good, the Lions are really going to suck, and you don't have to stay with him and refuse to draft a quarterback in 2022, 2023, and 2024, and then wait until 2025 after his contract expires to get a new quarterback. If he sucks this year, like he may suck this year, then you're going to have a top 2 or 3 pick in 2022 to get a new quarterback. So it's not like if you don't get a quarterback now, you're never going to have a chance to get one. If Goff sucks, you're really going to have a chance to get a quarterback.
The Rams and most Lion fans know that Goff is a step down from Stafford. Obviously, the Rams gave up 2 first-round picks for him. Fields and Goff could compete for the starting job. I would take Fields there. Let me just throw this one in. And Jelinek liked it. BP says Goff could have had an issue with the Rams management. Don't think he's worse than Stafford. This gets back to he was dating Sean McVay's girlfriend or something, a little something going on with the little love triangle or something. I remember we talked about that briefly here, but BP saying that there's an issue with management.
Well, they obviously didn't like him because they threw some bum in there to start a playoff game, and then once the bum got hurt, Jared Goff came in there. He was still a little bit injured, but he played better. So they didn't give their team the best chance to win because they had some sort of beef with Jared Goff. I think that is abundantly clear. And then afterwards, after the season ended, they said, well, who's your quarterback? Well, right now, I guess the franchise quarterback is Jared Goff, but it was they weren't trying to hide the fact that they wanted to get rid of him. And now he's in a place where he's got a welcome mat in front of him, and I think that the Lions should allow him to keep that welcome mat and let him know that welcome mat into the quarterback room is his room, as opposed to putting an adjacent welcome mat that says Fields or Lance or somebody else there before he even has a chance to earn the first penny from his $134 million contract.
Yeah, a love triangle is a lot more, fun to, I guess, salacious to get into if you're a fan than Goff here. But when you look at some of the advanced numbers when it came to the ability to throw the ball down the field, Goff was one of the worst in the NFL. Meanwhile, Stafford was one of the top 3. I mean, those are the things that stuck out like Jared Goff's sore thumb in that playoff game when you just looked at the numbers. Mm-hmm. Stafford can throw the ball deep and down the middle. Goff can't throw it deep and down the field. That's the thing that jumped out when you looked at some of the numbers and how they record them now. So
and Stafford knows how to get hurt.
Goff can't drive the football down the field. Well, yeah, hey, look, I don't think it's like, I'm not Mr. like Stafford's the greatest thing ever and this is automatically going to put the Rams in the Super Bowl. Remember, man, Stafford was in the catbird seat a bunch of times here or in a good position. He had and he was the one that sabotaged the season or sabotaged games. It happened. He wasn't over here like some elite quarterback.
Correct.
And just everybody around him always blew. He was
Correct.
part of the team sucking at times. So those Ram fans, everybody watch and all Stafford slaps like, he's going to the Super Bowl for sure. He might go out there and play like he did against the Jets and that opener a couple of years ago where he sucked. And everybody will be like, what are we doing here? We got Jared Goff 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Or the Cardinals when he got benched by Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, or any of those season-ending games against the Packers. Remember when he had Golden Tate wide open at the 10 and he threw it not just 1 or 2 yards over his head. He threw it like 10 yards over his head. Came back in the second half and played good, but he wasn't ready to go in that game. Lions win that game. They win the NFC North. So.
Oh well.
It's not always the 1 year that he was going to be the MVP and everything else. Everybody's well, just wait till these last couple games. They play the Cowboys. They play the
Giants.
They play the Packers. Like, no, wait, Stafford's rolling. Got into all of those, lost the ball. And, he didn't play all that well either.
Yeah. Oh, but he had the finger injury. All right.
He did bust up his finger in the first quarter against the Bears in the fourth from last game. So there was a point there.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's turn the page now to the 4th chapter.
Well, that gets us to everybody's favorite, baseball. The Royals, they don't play tonight. They're off tonight. But they lead the American League Central. There's an interesting tweet. They're sitting here, at
10-7.
Okay, thank you. I was looking for the standings, and I didn't have them here. 10-7. And, they're supposed to be down there in the basement with the Tigers. What's going on here? Is Kansas City's rebuild in front of Detroit's?
Well, you can see the tweet that we're referencing is from John Paul Morosi. He is a reporter for MLB Network and also contributor for Fox Sports Radio. Used to be on Fox Sports. And the tweet says, Dayton Moore, who's the general manager of the Royals, and the Royals had one of the best off seasons in MLB, and we are seeing the results. Kansas City is 10-4 and leads the AL Central at MLB Network. And when I saw that tweet, I mean, first of all, I was surprised to see that the Royals were number 1 in the AL Central. That stuck out to me first. But I think that this tweet is premature because it's only been 17 games. Nobody believes that the Royals are still going to be standing at the end of the year as the AL Central champion, or even that they're going to be a division title contender come August or September. But the Royals have a 4-game series this weekend against the Tigers. Not that that's a way to prove themselves, but it's an opportunity for us to see just how good the Royals are in person. So perhaps I'll change my mind about them beginning with the series ending on Monday. It would still be premature because it would only be 21 games at that point. But you look at the fact that they have a -6 run differential, which would certainly improve this weekend. That suggests that they're a below-average team. If we get to 40 games and the Royals are 23-17 or 22-18, then I think there will be more weight behind that tweet. But if we play the John Paul Morosi game, the Royals have not done well in the pitching department because they've given up, I think, just 3 fewer runs than the Tigers had coming into today, but they've obviously scored a lot more, 17 more runs than the Tigers. Their offseason additions, Andrew Benintendi, who's not been good so far, but Carlos Santana and Michael Taylor have been solid and they've helped. But the bigger issue, I think, isn't what they've done this offseason. I think the bigger issue is their homegrown talent. Jacob Junis has been solid on the mound. Brady Singer was drafted the same year as Casey Mize. He has a 3.77 ERA in 3 games started and was pretty solid last year as a rookie. Danny Duffy, an 0.50 ERA to start the season. That's a heck of a lot better than the Tigers' top 3 of Boyd, Mize, and whether you want to put in Turnbull, Skubal, or Fulmer, that's a heck of a lot better. You also look at their established homegrown all-star bats in Whit Merrifield and Salvador Perez. The Tigers don't have anything like that. Dayton Moore was able to add some complementary pieces around some all-star talent and some promising pitchers to get off to this 10-7 start. The Tigers don't have those solid pieces to build around. That, I think, is the big difference between the Royals and Al Avila's sorry Tigers.
Al Avila has been dominating the Rule 5 draft for the last couple of years, so don't take that away from him.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, look at the Tigers were 9-3 at one point last year, 7-3 in 2019. That was the year they lost 114 games. So teams do get off to a good start. So to your point here, I'm not ready to, anoint.
You want to crown them? Crown their ass.
Yeah, you ready to crown the Royals?
They are Royals, so they should have crowns.
Yeah, it's making for the big series, Tigers and Royals here. Tigers better take 2 out of 3 from the Royals because here's the reality
4-game
check.
series.
What two are so they better at least split with them. They don't split with the Royals. I feel a massive check out. Like I think there's a lot of people that are just checking out already, but they lose 3 or 4 from the Royals here. This team that Morosi, the Pope, is talking about. Look at their offseason. There's going to be a huge checkout for this team. I'll tell you that much.
You don't think folks are going to say, well, John Palmarosa said they had a nice offseason, so getting swept by the Royals, you're losing 3 out of 4 to the eventual AL Central champions is not that big a deal? You don't see that happening from Tigers fans?
No, I think that, and this is just all dreamland because we know it's not going to happen. I think if Big Gretsch said, hey, you can have as many people, you can be like Texas down there. You want to bring 35, 40,000 into Comerica, go ahead. They would have the same amount.
Yeah, maybe for that first day there'd be a lot more fans, but after that it would be representative of their record. But I'll say this: when I saw that tweet, I started thinking about Al Avila and when would be the earliest that the Tigers and the ownership would actually fire Al Avila, especially if you see that what you saw in John Palmarosi's tweet is able to be extrapolated throughout the course of the season, and the Royals finish, let's just say, with 83, 84 wins. That would, I think, make Avila look a heck of a lot worse because the Royals are supposed to be basement buddies with the Tigers, competing for the worst record in the AL Central. And if this quote-unquote decent offseason can be turned into an 83 or 84 win season, then the Tigers fan base would be saying, how in the world is it that they were able in a couple of years to go from losing 100 games, because they lost 100 games in 2019 as well, to winning 80-plus games? But we're sitting here 2 years removed from a 100-plus loss season, and we're still sitting here with 90-plus or even 100 losses. I think that if the Royals are doing that, and you got the Tigers as sellers at the deadline again, and you've got one of the 3 worst records in baseball at around the deadline again. And most of Al Avila's young building blocks, when you talk about Candelario, Willie Castro, Akil Baddoo, Mize, Manning, Skubal, maybe Green comes up and doesn't do anything or is still in AA or AAA. If most of those guys have not proven, or if none of those guys have proven to be above average Major League Baseball players, then maybe at that point, ownership will say, this is not a rebuild. This is a reincarnation of the 1990s. It's time to get Al Avila out of here because there's no excuse for no progress among these individual players in 2021 if the team's rebuild is on track.
Yeah, individual progress with the pitchers, that's going to be a big thing. Like if this team loses 100 games, I don't see there's any way that Al Avila is going to be able to, survive. Remember the one thing they didn't reveal A.J. Hinch's contract numbers because he had an out in there that if he didn't like how the situation was going, he could hit the eject button. So it's not like they lose 100 games and, he's going to look over and say, yeah, Al, we're really building something good here. They'll make the move there. I keep seeing this from Lynn Henning as well. And he's a retired writer, if people don't know who he is from the Free Press. But, he's still got a lot of contacts there with the Tigers. And he's tweeted this more than once. I want to get your impression of it. He was talking with somebody about replacement parts. He says that's been the issue, of course. No gainful Tigers replacement parts. Here's the interesting part. This is from Lynn Henning back on April the 10th. He says, believe one will be arriving maybe big league ready, maybe not. Once trade season arrives in July and August, a long wait. So I don't know, like
Believe one what will be arriving.
dealing a gainful replacement part. He believes one will be arriving. Maybe big league ready, maybe not. Once the trade season arrives.
A
So they're
replacement
trading
part?
for some, no. Let me try to explain this to you. Sometimes it can be difficult when it comes down to Twitter. I get it. Somebody was talking about, the issue with the Tigers, and he said, "You're so right. That's been the issue, of course. No Tigers, no gainful Tiger replacement part." So not that they're talking about just throwing chopped liver out there. Gainful, like no good players.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he believes one will be arriving, maybe big league ready, maybe not, once trade season arrives. So he's not talking about bringing somebody up from the minors. He's talking about trading for somebody. Does that make sense to you, what he's saying, or do you feel like that's going somewhere else?
Well, if they're going to trade for somebody, they have to have something that they're willing to give up. Now, if Matt Boyd continues to pitch like this, and this is not looking like it was in 2019 where he had 2 good months and then he just went back to the Matt Boyd that he's been throughout his entire career, then perhaps they could get a major league ready prospect who is ready to compete because they trade Boyd away to a team like the Yankees or something like that. But outside of Boyd and Wilson Ramos, who at least a couple of days ago was leading the American League in home runs, I don't know how they're going to be going around acquiring pieces. That's number one. And number two, since when has Avila been good at acquiring pieces, whether they're major league ready or they're single A ready
well, that's
in
a good
the trade?
point here. And the one thing about Henning, this was the second time. This was only April 10th was only a week into the season. I think he put a tweet out this even before the season started. Somebody's telling him that they're ready to make some kind of deal. I think it's probably to at least give Hinch, like the idea, like, hey, we are serious, and everybody's been crying, with rightfully so, about the biggest acquisition of the offseason, was Grossman. It's not like that's getting anybody all excited. Sounds like they're ready to trade for some kind of big piece or here, but it doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
Wait till the offseason. Don't give up your young talent for just to show Hinch. If you're going to spend money, wait till the offseason to do it. So I don't know. Sometimes Henning likes to just throw these the wordy tweets out to make himself, sound smart. I like Glenn Henning, but it doesn't make any sense, and that's the second time that he's done it.
And if they've got the worst record in the American League, what the heck is a splash going to do? If you have the worst record in the American League, then you've got some really significant issues. And if the Yankees say to themselves, well, Giancarlo Stanton is just too injured all the time, we got to get rid of him, and the Tigers make a blockbuster trade for Giancarlo, I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. If they trade for him, Giancarlo Stanton is, number one, not going to be happy that he goes from the freaking Yankees, who have a terrible record right now, to the Tigers. But number two, he's not going to make some gigantic impact in the Tigers lineup. They're scoring 2 runs a game right now. So they're just going to pitch around him when he's healthy enough to play, and they're going to say, all right, give us Robbie Grossman, give us Renato Nunez. Hey, Akil Baddoo, are you hot this week or are you not hot this week? We'll throw you some off-speed pitches and see if you can hit it. So making a deal.
I don't even know a player that they could make a deal for that you'd feel like, oh yeah, that was a great deal. Like
Trout,
Acuna going out there, but who are they giving up? They're going to give up their entire team to get Ronald Acuna? Like, oh hey, now got one player. Yeah. So I don't know why he keeps tweeting that. It's the second time.
Yeah.
I have to send him a message and say, Lynn, it sounds fun and all, but it doesn't make any sense. But maybe it fits right into where the Tigers are going.
Yeah. All right, let's turn the page now before we get to the fifth chapter to the major wager, and that's an opportunity for us to give you some sports betting advice. Of course, now that sports betting is legal here in the state of Michigan, Dennis, remind us what you picked on Tuesday and what you're thinking about for tonight or in the near future.
Yeah, we're also going to get Jelinek in here. I picked Devontae Smith on Tuesday, the wide receiver from Alabama, to be picked in the first 11 picks next week, Thursday. And this week I'm going with an exact outcome for picks 3, 4, and 5. I'm picking Fields at 3.
Wow.
And Pitt's at 4, and Sewell at 5 to Cincy. Plus 700. Plus 700 when it comes out. Fields, Pitts, Sewell, 3, 4, 5. Plus 700.
Yeah, well, that'd be a nice return on investment if you get it. It's possible. There's definitely been some chatter about Pitts going number 4, and number 5 they need an offensive lineman in Cincy. On Tuesday, I went back to another MLB strikeout prop bet because my model projected 4.19 strikeouts for Patrick Corbin, so I picked the under on 5.5 strikeouts, and Corbin finished with exactly 5 strikeouts, so that was another win for my strikeout prop bet model. Tonight, I'm going back to the MLB prop bet well, and I'm picking a game that has not started yet. So if you want to bet on this, you can do so. It's in this highly anticipated Dodgers-Padres series, the second one of the season. Walker Buehler's over-under is set at 6.5 strikeouts. My model says that's way off because it projects just 4.06 strikeouts. So take the under on 6.5 strikeouts for Walker Buehler and cash in.
All right. Good luck out there with the chat model. I mentioned Brian Jelinek. He is with us. You've seen him in the chat, whether it's on Facebook or whether it is over on the live chat over on YouTube. Now you get to see his face.
Well, let's see
right?
if we. Yeah. Well. I think we're having that same issue we had a couple of weeks ago. So give me just a second to put his face in here.
Well, the one part I hear him, so I do believe we can hear the audio.
I'm here.
You know?
Yeah, see,
I am here. I am here.
So Jelinek, what do you think? You've been putting a lot of hot takes in the live chat.
What would you guys think about bringing Jeff Luhnow in? I would be totally game for it. Look at the players he's drafted. He's brought in Carlos Correa. He's drafted Alex Bregman. Is it Preston Tucker or Kyle Tucker, their left fielder? I can't remember which
Kyle.
Tucker brother it is. Kyle?
Thank
Yeah, they run in some great players. I mean, Avila's not going anywhere until the offseason because Detroit teams never fire their general managers or managers during the season. So bring in Jeff Luhnow next season and let him draft players and let him trade away everybody. It's a Dombrowski/Avila guy. Do what Brad Holmes and why am I forgetting the dude's name
Campbell?
for the Pistons?
Oh,
Troy Weaver.
Troy Weaver. Thank you. That's what I would do.
well, wasn't Luhnow? I mean, was he fired just because of the scandal, or was he involved in any of that sexual misconduct remarks or whatever was going on down there?
Oh God, I totally forgot about that.
I know the assistant GM was, and I don't know if he ended up being involved in that or not. So
I don't know. I don't know what the Tigers are going to do, but one thing I've been looking up is that after the Rockies ditched Nolan Arenado, they're not looking to sign any big contracts. They just want to get younger. They want to bring in more people. Tigers should make a play for Trevor Story, whether it's through free agency or trading for him, and just lock him up. I mean, Willie Castro is great. He's going to hit well, but I think he's going to be better at second base. Trevor Story steals a lot of bags every year. He can hit with power. He's a contact there. Like, bring in Trevor Story, man. Bring someone we can build a franchise around.
I'm in on that. That sounds pretty good. What about any of these rule changes of the draft? Do you got any thoughts there?
Why is Tom Brady being like a get off my lawn type guy? I mean, did you see some of his comments about saying like it's stupid? Like, why would we change the numbers like that? Dude should just have colored jerseys. I mean, his actual quote was, why have numbers? Just have colored jerseys. Why not wear the same number? Dumb. And then he tagged NFL and the NFL Players Association. Like, why would he care?
Well, when you are, counting out who the blitzers are, if you're really familiar with the linebackers numbers and the defensive end, he's been doing this for such a long time, now he's going to have to be like, wait a second, I'm not used to saying, one and it being a linebacker, but he should have complained about this from the outset, not just on the day that they're doing it. This does seem like for a guy that just won the Super Bowl and, is the greatest player and everything, a real odd, mountain here to get up and cry on. So I don't get it either.
I think it's weak. I mean, I love the idea of having less players in the zone or whatever it's called for the onside kicks, just to see if onside kicks can be more successful. But seeing is believing when it comes to the sky judge and all that. I'm not going to be able to have an opinion until week 4 or 5 in the NFL. Just those plays, just I feel like never get right, and it's weird that we have a better vantage point as fans sometimes. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I have to wait and see before I make a better comment about that. I just think it's weird.
Yeah, and you made a good point that the Illiches don't fire people mid-season, so
Never do.
No, most teams you don't like to do that unless there's some kind of scandal or some kind of situation there. And I don't think that they would do that. Like if they didn't do it with Blashill, it's pretty surprising that they would do it with Avila, right?
I mean, not to go totally off on a different road, but I feel kind of bad for Jeff Blashill. I mean, those teams have been terrible. It's not really his fault that the Wings are so bad. I mean, might as well ride Blashill out until the Wings get better. You can't really fire him for no reason. They're terrible.
Yeah, well, if that was the reason, there's a lot of terrible teams that fire coaches all the way through the NHL. Like if he looks around at the rest of the league, but yeah, there is a point, man. The team, like they're the worst team in the NHL. They're going to be probably going to be one of the worst teams next year too. So why do you want to bring in somebody? That was the thing with Stevie. I thought he was coming in where they were going to be starting on the rise, but this thing might not even have bottomed out yet.
I mean, Blashill's clearly not the guy, and Stevie Y will bring in his own dude at some point, but you can ride out Blashill. I'm not too worried about that. 2 years ago, I would have said get rid of him, but really thinking about it, of how bad they are, just hold on to him.
Well, Chapman looks like he's not going to be able to get this. It might just mean the indication of, hey, speaking of rock bottom, we may have hit it here. It might be time to try some new software.
I don't have a face for radio, so it's fine.
Yeah, I can't get it.
All right, so before I go, I'm going to try to give you guys a random, just weird stat every Thursday. Do you guys follow MLB Random Stats, the Jeremy Frank kid?
No.
I don't, but let's hear it.
Well, according to him, Shohei Ohtani's OPS at 1.052 is currently higher than his ERA at 1.038. So, dude's just mashing and pitching well. It's awesome. And he's on my fantasy team, so we're good there.
I'm an Ohtani fan. I remember the first time he came into Comerica, got down there. I was all fired up. Well, and I just thought, like, man, there's going to be, 30,000 plus here, like all these baseball fans, to come see Ohtani. And I remember taking a picture, like, and it was, the weather, I think, was a little dicey that night, but that's no excuse, man. But it looked like, kind of crowds that they're drawing right now, man. They're like 5,000
Ohtani and Trout and Pujols, and still no draw.
No, it was pretty, I took the picture. It was sad.
When you guys went to that game, did Ohtani pitch or not?
Yeah, I went to the game when Ohtani pitched.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But that's it. He's been hurt, but hopefully, he doesn't get hurt anymore, and he can just stay out there. I don't know if he's going to have an OPS higher than a ERA or anything else, but he's awesome, and he's
dude's
a one of a
hitting
kind.
310 right now, so dude's awesome.
And where's the Tigers version of Ohtani, either on the mound or in the lineup, particularly in the lineup?
That's Badu. That's what we got.
Yeah. Well, all right. A couple of extra base hits today. We'll take that.
I guess so.
All right, Jonah, great job, and we'll do something that we can. Yeah,
all good, boys.
You sound better than you look.
That's exactly right. Root for radio, man. I'm just here for my voice.
All right, good job. We'll see you. Key says Avila still can't flip a coin, although he's trying, and he puts the emojis of a little smirking smiley face and then a straight up smiley face. I forget what's the one that's you got a blink and with a little smirk. What's that mean?
The blink and the smirk?
Yeah.
I can't envision that right now. I'd have to see it.
Well, just look down at the live chat. I guess you can.
Is it
the last
YouTube?
one on there?
The YouTube or the Facebook?
Yeah, YouTube.
Oh, that's he's winking.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to this final chapter here.
All right, that takes us to the 5th chapter, and Stephen Curry he just finished a remarkable stretch tearing up the NBA, putting up 40 points per game over like 10, 11, 12 games. And in that stretch, a lot of people have been saying, hey, now that he's a scoring leader in the NBA by 1/10 of a point per game over Bradley Beal, he should be the MVP of the league. And he was actually asked on a video podcast with far worse graphics in the Fith chapter, but obviously they were able to bring in guests a little bit better than us. He was asked on a video podcast about that, and we'll play exactly what he said during that exchange.
Real quick, are you the MVP this year?
I mean, I gotta be.
Okay. All right.
I probably won't get it, but I mean, whatever.
No, don't say that.
Keep
We're
going like
putting it
this,
out
and
there.
that nobody will be able to.
I'm just
you
setting
keep
it.
this going.
I like
it's
to be
over.
dramatic sometimes, so I'm just setting the table.
I know you do.
So there you go. He's saying that he's got to be the MVP of the 2020-2021 NBA season. Curry's already won the MVP twice. He's having a great year this year. But do you think he's got to be the MVP this year, Dennis?
No, I don't. I think that it's pretty clear. I think it's going to be unanimous that it's going to be the Joker. I mean, just look at how he's played. Look at what his team's doing. I think he's going to be the landslide winner. I mean, great job by Curry. He's fabulous. The Hall of Famer. Changed the way the game's played. I would vote Embiid probably over him right now as well. I did see, I didn't actually hear it, but Brian Windhorst from ESPN was on with somebody. It sounded like they were almost going to get in a fight about who they're going to vote for the MVP. And the guy called, I don't know if he called him a blank hole or challenged him to a fight, called him fat, something like that. I have to dig that up to see the confrontation with Windhorst talking about the MVP.
Wow.
I almost sent it to you. Wasn't enough time there, but yeah, clearly it's the Joker.
Yeah, I would say so as well. If you look at the odds right now, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, Joker is a huge favorite at -360. Embiid's at +340, and Curry is at +1700. So at -360, Jokic is a huge favorite. And you look at the numbers, which is a lot of times what it comes down to. Jokic and Giannis are the only two players ranked in the top 10 in the NBA in points and rebounds. Jokic is the only player in the NBA ranked in the top 10 in points, rebounds, and assists. He does it all. He's gotten a bunch of triple doubles this year. He's number 1 of the NBA in player efficiency rating. He can score down low. He's shooting over 41% from three-point land and over 85% from the free throw line. He's been incredible, and he's played in all 58 games. Curry has missed 8 games this year, which if you think that it's razor thin, you go with the guy who plays all the time, doesn't need maintenance days, hasn't suffered a messed up hamstring that sets him down for a week. Jokic plays all the time. That means something. Curry is more fun to watch to me. He's my favorite player, but Jokic is fun to watch too, particularly as a big man, and he deserves it this year.
Chapman, you're fun to watch and listen to. So you've got that in common with the Joker.
You as well.
And with Steph Curry. Well, thanks.
That's why you make the big bucks on this show.
Coming up on Tuesday's show, we'll see if Avila will get his revenge on the Royals here. We'll see if the Tiger fans are still with this team, and we'll be into draft week. Now, speak for itself. So for Brian Chapman and Brian Jelinek, maybe we'll see him next week, actually, more than just hear from him. Thanks to him. I'm Dennis Fithy, and so long. Thanks for watching and listening to the Fifth Chapter. Good night.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithy, and when they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast, or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.